A very good afternoon and welcome back to Havana Media. My name is Boniface Owino and as usual I'm going to be your host for today. Now it's a very good afternoon that I've been visited by one of the political analysts, that is Thomas here, and I would like to give him time to introduce himself before we come back and continue with our discussion.
Thank you my brother Boniface. As you said, my name is Thomas Omao. I'm a political scientist by profession, and currently I work with an international financial institution here in Nairobi. Yeah. Located exactly along Lenana Road.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's great.
Yeah.
Now, I want us to go very fast in our discussion because a lot of things are happening in the country, and beginning with the outcome of the AU and all that. Now, talking about the outcome of the AU, what do you have to say, and how is this issue, Raila failing the AU, going to affect or shape the 2027 general election?
Regarding the African Union outcome, we had indicated in various media platforms, both social media and also mainstream media, that Raila Odinga was going to lose because of quite a number of dynamics. For example, Boniface, the manner in which Kenya as a country, the manner in which we have handled our diplomas and also international relations with other countries was a major dynamic in this outcome. The manner in which William Ruto handled the crisis in the Democratic Republic of the Congo was actually a major dynamic. For example, as we are currently speaking, Kenya as a country, we don't have a substantive ambassador to Kinshasa. Colonel Amada was nominated by William Ruto to be Kenya's ambassador to Kinshasa. But to date, the gentleman has never submitted his credentials to President Etienne Felix Tshisekedi. So we have strained relations with Kinshasa in the sense that in 2023, Colonel Nanga, this is the gentleman who is the leader of M23, the rebel group, that wants to depose the regime in Kinshasa. So in 2023, William Ruto welcomed the rebel leaders in Nairobi, and these are the people who wants to overthrow a government in Kinshasa. So how is Felix Tshisekedi, the president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, how is he going to view Kenya as a country, for example? So, and you're aware that before the elections, President William Ruto, as the chairperson of the East African community, called for a virtual meeting of the East African heads of state. And Etienne Felix Tshisekedi never attended that meeting. But he flew to South Africa to attend the SADC meeting. And the countries that voted against our country is SADC countries. Majority. Because of the careless manner in which we have handled our foreign relations. That was one. Another major dynamic that made us to lose this vital vote is Kenya was viewed as a dictatorial state. Boniface, you are aware that various opposition figureheads have been abducted here in Nairobi. Kizza Besigye was abducted in Nairobi and taken to Uganda. We have former political figureheads who were opposition leaders and now presidents. Talk about President Bassirou Faye from Senegal, who came from prison to be president. Talk about President Boko Gideon Duma from Botswana, who came from prison to be president. So we had the opposition figureheads in the African continent who are now presidents. How are they going to judge Kenya as a country, a dictatorial state? That was a serious dynamic that resulted into this outcome. You see, I can say that Raila Odinga is a paragon of moral and intellectual virtue, not only in Kenya but also in the African continent, the citadel of democratic ideals. But Raila Amolo Odinga, as a gentleman, was not the one who was being judged in this poll, but Kenya as a country was put on the weighing scale. You see, that was another major dynamic that resulted in the outcome. So some of these former opposition figureheads in the continent who are now presidents in the continent had to vote against Kenya. because of the manner in which the country behaves. That was also another major dynamic. I also mentioned about something to do with the Anglophone,
the Francophone,
the Francophone speaking countries. As I mentioned, history has clearly recorded that 3 of the 4 former AUC chairpersons came from Francophone.
Yeah.
And so these elections was not to be an exception. You see? Another thing was age. You see, our candidates, Kenya presented a wrong candidate at 8 years.
8 years.
You know, that's a very serious portfolio, a secretariat portfolio. It requires a gentleman who is very active, flying from country to country, so as to present Africa's foreign agenda. So that was another dynamic that made our candidate to lose. So going back to the question that we've asked, how is it going to shape the elections of 2027?
Now, before you answer that, you mentioned something about Kenya, that the way we conducted ourselves in this election and the way during the campaign and all that. It's not, you know, we know very well that the person that destroyed everything is our president.
Yes, Boniface. Yes.
So suppose, I want us to try to imagine that suppose the former president Uhuru Kenyatta was the one who was in seat right now, and Raila Odinga wanted to become the AU chair. Was it going to be easy for him to get it?
Oh, thank you for the question, Boniface. You see, during the regime of President Uhuru Kenyatta, Kenya was performing extremely well when it came to international relations. We have a gentleman by the name Professor Joachim Hans Morgenthau. He has written 2 fundamental books that govern the geopolitics and also the interaction of nations. He wrote a book titled Politics Among Nations. He also wrote a book about scientific man versus power politics. What he tends to bring about is the conduct of states, the conduct of countries, how countries interrelate among themselves. Right. He brought about the idea of national self-interest. You can remember that during the regime of Uhuru Kenyatta, Kenya got a position at the United Nations Security Council. And during that particular moment, President William Ruto, through Ambassador Kamau Macharia, were able to lobby all of the African continent. And now at the global scale, until we got that portfolio. And during that particular moment, we were vying against Djibouti. So the manner in which we conduct ourselves, especially at the global scale, determines how the outcome was to be. So I can say that President Uhuru Kenyatta was very, very much aware about dealing with the question of diplomacy and also international relations. We had very strong diplomatic ties with our neighbors. We had very strong diplomatic ties even at the African level. So that's why we realized that it's actually during this regime that we had Ambassador Peter Muthoka, who was the Secretary General of East African Community. And during that regime, that's when countries like the Democratic Republic of the Congo joined the EAC. As we are currently speaking, we have countries that have applied to be members of East African Community but have not been granted that. Countries like Djibouti has applied to be a member of the East African Community, but it has not been granted. So as the president or as the chairperson of the East African Community, what President William Ruto needs to do is to leave experts in matters to do with diplomas and also international relations to take charge. That is why I feel that we miss people like Ambassador Kamau Macharia, who performed extremely well. Who was the former PS for Foreign Affairs. Currently, people like Dr. Korir Sing'oei, the current PS for Foreign Affairs, doesn't have a say in that particular ministry. And these are the people I think, I was almost forgetting. One of the major reasons that Raila lost is that Kenya appointed wrong individuals to lead the campaign. For example, someone like Makau Mutua, the professor of law. As far as I'm aware, that's a gentleman who who is well versed with matters to do with law, but not foreign relations and also international relations. That's someone whom I can say what's like Professor Hans Morgenthau, the vocabulary to him. So we really put people who have real knowledge about diplomacy and also international relations. And that's why our candidate lost. The people who are supposed to project Raila as a statesman, as the citadel of democratic ideals, failed to do that.
And don't you think that this one is just a norm that our president have gotten used to it? Like he thinks that anybody can do whatever he thinks that they can do, based on the way he was elected the CSS and the PSS.
I think I can William Ruto. I can say that he overly is more of a micromanager, and that's why I think. For example, recently he went to the United States of America. Can attest that, Bonnie. And when he was in the United States of America, Kenya was accorded a major NATO ally status. And William Ruto came here lecturing at the heads of state here and there. But then we have people who have been there for decades. Talk about Paul Biya from Cameroon, has been that portfolio for over 40 years. Talk about Ampasogo, who has been there for over 49 years, the guy from Equatorial Guinea. Our neighbor here, Kaguta Museveni, has been there for 36 years. And now here is the new boy on the block who is lecturing other heads of state.
And yet, for less than 5 years.
He has been in office for less than 3 years.
3 years, actually,
So that's why those heads of state told him, see, we'll be waiting you at that Nelson Mandela Hall in Addis Ababa. So
they were just targeting Ruto. They wanted a place that they can punish.
So that will show you how low you are. That also was a major dynamic. So I think we love our president. He's a young gentleman, very sharp, but he really needs to delegate duties.
Now, how is this everything going to affect the general election in 2027?
From where I sit, Boniface, I want to say without any fear of contradiction that I am one of those few fellows who supported the Kenya Kwanza regime and President William Ruto to be particular. And I went to mainstream media and also social media platforms and indicated that William Ruto could be president, though his win could be marginal. And I gave quite a good number of reasons. And during that particular time, I came up with a theory by the name the Democratic Renaissance in the African continent, because we had seen that presidents in the African continent were winning on the ballot. And I gave examples of countries like Zambia, countries like Malawi, and I said that with respect to that particular theory, the Democratic Renaissance in the African continent, I felt that William Ruto could win, though that win could be marginal. I also went as far as saying that that contest could be that win could be contested in the Supreme Court, which came to pass. Now I'm here saying that William Ruto is most likely to be a one-term president in the elections of 2027. The reason as to why I'm saying this is that he has lost a very large constituency. That is the constituents of the mountain has gone, and it will go forever. So people like Gachagua Chofre Rigathi, the former deputy president, are going to play a fundamental role on who will be the next president of the republic. Rigathi Gachagua is as angry as an Incha tiger, Boniface, because he is trying to fight so hard a clique of political figureheads who are trying to diminish his rising political star. You can bear me witness that these are gentlemen who came from a member of parliament, a one-term member of parliament, and rose to national politics. So, the outcome of the 2027 elections will depend on two factors. Number one, what will be the unity of the opposition figureheads? Are they going to be united to the core? That is one dynamic. History has recorded that in the run-up to the elections of 2002, 3 former presidential candidates in the election of 1997 united. We had Charity Kalokingilu, we had Kijana Michael Wamalwa, we had Mwai Kibaki. So these people put aside their differences and united against a state candidate who was Uhuru Kenyatta, and they won. So the elections of 2027 are going to depend on the unit of purpose of the opposition figureheads. And this is my advice to all the opposition figureheads in the country. Talk about Kalonzo Musyoka, talk about Raila Odinga, talk about Rigathi Gachagua. Their unity of purpose is what's going to determine whether they are going to take William Ruto home. Failure to unite, they'll meet their Waterloo at exactly 9 a.m. And William Ruto is going to defeat them. They don't unite. So that is one dynamic.
Yeah.
Another dynamic that is going to come into display is that we are most probably going to go for a runoff for the first time in history. You know, in 2017, Uhuru Kenyatta beat Raila Odinga by only 80,000 votes. A very small amount of votes.
Very small, yeah.
Very small. So, the outcome, we'll have 2 outcomes in 2027. William Ruto will be defeated. We go for a runoff. And this will depend on the particular unit of purpose among the opposition figureheads in the country. Yeah, Boniface.
So don't you think that okay, you know, we have a lot of different candidates.
Yeah.
Who are aspiring to become the president or to vie for the presidency 27. But just like you've said, that for these people to win, they have to be united.
Yeah.
Now, let us just mention but a few. We have got, we've mentioned, we have Kalonzo Musyoka.
We also have Professor Fredo Gola, who is a new entrant.
We are a new entrant. We have a lot of them. Let me say around, I've been counting them around 7, 8.
Yes.
So do you think that all these 8 candidates will sit down in one table and decide that now, okay, our main aim and our main goal right now is to impeach this, is to take this man down?
You see, Boniface, I'm a professional, I'm a political scientist, and I take data and statistics so seriously. In the run-up to the elections of 2022, I gave a serious advice to Raila Odinga, which he ignored. And I told him, number one, you don't have to depend on the deep state so that you win these elections. Because in the run-up to the elections of 2022, Uhuru Kenyatta, the then sitting president, had suffered from a serious lame duck effect. He had become so unpopular among Kenyans. And so I told him, if you really need to win this election, just campaign like you never, like you're going to get this thing. But then Raila Odinga just believed that he had the deep state on his side. And he went slow on his campaigns. And he met his Waterloo. You see, I believed that Raila Odinga was defeated fairly and squarely. He was defeated by around 234,000 votes. And this is how he was defeated. You see, 700,000 voters from his Luo Nyanza political bastion never came out to vote. And William Ruto defeated him by only 234,000 votes. So if he had heeded to my advice, went back to his Luo Nyanza political bastion and convinced his kinsmen to come out to the last man to support his bid, then he could have been president. So that's why even that bid was quashed at the Supreme Court, because he went and slept. He believed Uhuru Kenyatta and the deep state could support him, which never came to materialize. So, and that is why I'm telling you here, Bonnie, and for God's sake, we'll be there in 2027 to see this. If the opposition political figureheads in this country come and unite to the core as we approach the elections of 2027, then I'm very 100% sure that William Ruto is going to be a one-term president. And I know he's watching this, but this is the truth of the matter. Because of a number of reasons, he has become so unpopular among Kenyans. You know, he was projected and was propelled to the top echelons of power by the common man, by the common mwananchi. But now he has gone against his manifesto. You can see how he has raided the payslip.
The payslip, yeah.
We have over 5.6 million Kenyans who are earning and who are on the payslip. These people are extremely bitter. They are as angry as an Ninja tiger because the regime has seriously oppressed them. Unnecessary punitive tax measures have been put in place. Yeah? But again, I want to say that William Ruto has a chance to be elected in 2027 if he does one thing, which I cannot mention here on air. Because last time I was in Channel 1, I mentioned that William Ruto could be elected as president in 2027 if he did that particular thing. Though I never mentioned that. Then after I came out of the studio, I received quite a number of calls from his kinsmen, from his political handlers, asking me, how are we going to do this? But now that one, I'll handle it at a professional level.
And okay, before we go to the next question, what is next for Raila?
As we are currently speaking, Raila Odinga is the most expensive politician we are currently having as a country, because he has the keys to whoever will occupy that particular house on the hill along State House Road come 2027. So depending on how he'll calculate, Raila Odinga has a large constituency of voters. And don't be surprised to see Raila Odinga saying that he's going to vie
Again.
in 2027. Also, why am I saying this, Boniface? The reason as to why I'm saying that Raila Odinga might be vying in 2027 is that he has seen the mountain has become slippery for William Ruto. And now this is the question that he'll ask himself. Will he pass the ball to William Ruto so that he scores, or he can score himself? So if he sees that he's able to score, he can score. Because with the mountain gone, I want to tell you that William Ruto's Waterloo is cooked.
Yeah, he's cooked.
He's already cooked. So depending on the conduct and behavior of the opposition figureheads in this country, Raila Odinga might vie against William Ruto.
So possibility of him vying is very high.
It's very high.
Now, the next question. We know very well that we have over 5.6, according to the statistics, we have got over 5.6 million youths in the country right now. Now, I want you to try to tell us what is the role, or what is the part, the bigger part that these youths are going to play in the 2027 election.
You see, Boniface, the country is in a period of political schizophrenia currently, in the sense that politicians and even the president have started early campaigns. So what will be the position of the youth in this country? The youth have been used by the political class time and again. And the reason for this is that they have lacked a clear ideology. They have lacked a proper strategy to deal with the government of the day. And you'll find the reason as to why they behave in such a manner is that this a part of the demographic that is seriously disenfranchised. A majority have gone to school, they have degrees, yes, but now they don't have job opportunities. The government has not created a conducive environment for these youth to be absorbed into the real job market. And now that is why you realize that towards each and every cycle of election, these youth are used by the political class. They don't even go to elective positions. They don't vie for, or they don't run for office because they are seriously disenfranchised that they don't have the capacity to do that. So going to the election of 2027, I think it's a high time that this important part of demographic come out in large numbers to vote for a regime that will most probably cater for their needs. That will, number one, create job opportunities among the youth. And that's why people like Professor Fred Ogola have come up. They have come into the clear picture to offer alternative leadership, to offer alternative leadership that the traditional politicians have failed to offer. And you know, these are gentlemen who, for example, at one point came up with the economic policies for the development of Rwanda. see Rwanda is seriously prospering, courtesy of his strategies, his economic policies that are working. So I really think it's high time we embrace leaders like Alfredo Gola, who have ambitions to go for the top seat. So give them support so that they can bring the transformative agenda to this country. Yeah.
And okay, talking about the alternative leadership, right now, what is it that Kenya needs, like politically? What is it? What are the qualities? Like, let's say, for instance, like you mentioned, Professor Alfredo Gola has been saying that he wants to vie for the top seat. Now, what are the qualities that the youths will be looking at?
You see, Chapter 6 of the Kenyan Constitution is very crystal clear on leadership and integrity. That we need leaders who have qualities that really serve. You know, Boniface, recently I saw something going around on social media whereby our former CS was wearing expensive watches worth millions and millions of shillings. Shoes worth millions of shillings. Expensive shirts from Turkey.
The ties.
You know, it is so stupid that as a country and in the 21st century, we are using clothing as a measure of wealth. Developed countries like Sweden, countries like Australia, USA, you see leaders even going to job using bicycles.
Bicycles,
wearing shorts. So it's very sad that in the 21st century, our leaders are using clothing as a measure of wealth.
And the luxury cars.
And the luxury cars. I remember the Gen Z uprising of June 2024 was propelled by opulence among the political class. That was one of the things that propelled that uprising. Young Kenyans came out and protested that, and they said, we are suffering. Look here, we are suffering, and yet you are here splashing our resources.
Our resources,
yeah. So that's why the National Assembly was impeached. I believe our National Assembly was impeached on that particular day of 25th of June. And I believe that was law of us. It was law of our leaders. And they really need to come out and just work for Kenyans. Because that's why we chose them. That's why they were elected to serve the electorate. Yeah.
Now, what is the difference between choosing a leader who is more politician than a worker, or maybe who is more of an activist than a politician?
You know that is one of the challenges that we are facing as a country. We choose politicians who lack the leadership, who lack the fundamental leadership qualities. Like recently, I saw a politician from the North Rift going to a church and giving out 20 million shillings just in one fundraiser. He's giving 20 million in a church function whereby our hospitals are lacking drugs. See, we have impassable roads. See, we have teachers who are yet to be employed. So we lack, we have leaders that lack the fundamental and requisite leadership skills to start this country to the next level. See, like for example, I think I'll be a serious victim of eroded morals if I won't mention that we have a president who is a micromanager, who believes to be knowing everything, who believes that even whatever that he doesn't know, he believes that he can get divine intervention to perform it. And that's why I say that we are poorly performing at the global level. Our foreign policy and also diplomacy is very weak in the first 2 years of the Kenya Kwanza regime. You see, we have our neighbors who are in constant fights. See the fights here in Sudan. See the fights here in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And I want to mention that Kenya is a regional hegemony. This region is more of a small superpower in this region. And we are supposed to take up that role to bring about peace in the region. But we have failed under this regime. And that is why I think that William Ruto has to really rise up the occasion and delegate duties to experts. You see, like foreign policy and diplomacy, that is a place that requires experts. They should be left to deal with that particular area without any interference. Now we realize that we have a president whose personal interests have superseded the state interests. Like, for example, as I mentioned earlier, was it necessary for our president to welcome Colonel Nanga and the rebel leaders in Nairobi? I really don't think whether that was necessary. These are people who are destabilizing the government in Congo. These are people who are causing havoc to the government in Kinshasa. They want to overthrow Felix Tshisekedi. You see, the Democratic Republic of Congo has had a history of military coups and also rebel coups. Mobutu Sese Seko was deposed that manner. So we need our president to step up and delegate duties to qualified characters. I think this country is not short of qualified fellows to lead our diplomatic front. We have Ambassador Kamau Macharia, Ambassador Peter Muthoka are there. Very competent characters who can propel this country. We even have my brother and friend who is a lecturer at the University of Nairobi, Kaudo Philip, is equally up to the task. He is equally up to the task, and they can bring about the required change in this country so that we have a strong relations and also diplomacy amongst our neighbors.
But our president said that he has a PhD holder, so we cannot tell him anything because he has got PhD. I think that is one of the things.
Actually, I saw that. I saw a president mentioning that. But even a PhD holder must specialize in a particular field. See?
Now the big question that people were asking was this: how did you get this PhD?
But people like Oscar Sudi were also
they also wanted to be doctors.
Did he get it genuinely?
Did he get it genuinely?
Yeah. What was the coursework? Did he do the thesis? Did he? Which area is he specializing? But I really believe that in as much as the president tends to be a micromanager, there are critical sectors that needs experts so that they are propelled to the next level. For example, areas to do with economy. You have Professor Fred Ogola, a very competent character. And he has displayed that in countries like Rwanda, where he has come up with serious economic policies that has propelled that country to economic freedom. Despite the fact that their president is a dictator. So I feel that we need to give space. We need to give that opportune moment to characters. I know we have competent leaders. We have competent technocrats to run particular sectors.
Now, how is our Kenya, the government of Kenya? And the way it rules and maybe the way they make the decisions affecting our relationship with our neighboring countries?
Oh, as I said earlier, Boniface, I think we have a very weak foreign policy and also diplomacy. And I can give examples. Quite a good number of examples. You see, we have the crisis in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Our president, out of nowhere, just jumped to supporting rebel movements here in Nairobi. These are people who want to overthrow a sitting government in Kinshasa. See? And now, William Ruto is seen to be working closely with the Rwandan president, that is Paul Kagame. And it's believed that Kagame is the one who is supporting the M23 rebels in the Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo. You see, last time I said that William Ruto is the current chairman of the East African Community, and he called a meeting of East African heads of state, but Felix Tshisekedi never attended that meeting. Another meeting was called by SADC, and he jetted to South Africa to attend that meeting, to Zimbabwe to attend that meeting. So what does this imply? It implies that Felix Tshisekedi, the president of DRC, has seen that William Ruto is closely working with countries like Rwanda that want to overthrow him. So that's the law of our president. If honestly, people like Corili Singwei, the current permanent secretary for foreign affairs, if he was up to the task, he could have advised the president to be very, very much careful on the DRC crisis. And I think had the president played his cards well, then I'm sure Raila Odinga could be the current AUC chairman. But regarding to that, another thing that I was forgetting, we had the crisis in Gaza and Israel. William Ruto jumped from nowhere and said that Kenya is supporting Israel. You see, in the African continent, we have the Islamic-speaking countries that is made up of 29 countries. So, what is the view of the Islamic-speaking countries to this position? You see, the Palestinians, they are Muslims. They are Muslim-speaking countries. And our president is siding with Israel. So I really think that the president needs some serious mentorship and some serious advice regarding his comments about foreign relations and foreign issues. I said that we miss people like Ambassador Kamama Sharia, very competent characters during the regime of Uhuru Kenyatta. They were up to the task and they were left, that docket was purely left to them and they honestly delivered. But now we have a president who believes to be knowing everything, including foreign policy and diplomacy issues. He jumps here and there, speaking carelessly, and that has cost us. We have, during the Kenyatta regime, this region was unified. The East African community was unified. It was during that time that countries like DRC joined us. And I said, we have countries like Ethiopia, which have applied to be members of EAC, but they have not been admitted. We have countries like Djibouti, which have applied to be members of EAC, but they have not been granted. So I really think that we have a long way to go in as far as diplomacy and international relations is concerned. Because, these are about national and state interests. So with the current regime, I don't really think whether we'll make any serious strides going forward, unless and otherwise.
And that otherwise is in question mark. Now let us run to our parliament for a few minutes before we end up.
Yeah.
The court decided that the Azimio la Umoja is the majority.
Sure.
And then after that, our speaker Moses Wetangula, the party leader of Ford Kenya, said that he is the only person to decide the majority and the minority. And then he overthrew the judgment and said that the majority are still the Kenya Kwanza. And then Junet Mohammed, being the person that was supposed to sit on the position of the majority, walked out with the members of Azimio, and they said that they will be withdrawn from any committee of the house. And mentioned, let me just quote what he said, that there will be casualties.
Sure.
And then in the senators, I think Cherengei was already withdrawn. So the senator people like Sifuna and his colleagues are now the majority.
Yeah.
What is it that is going to happen? Will Raila find his ways to take one house or all the houses? Because from the look of things, according to me, I feel like if at all maybe things work on well the way he wants, he might have a Nusumkate. And the Nusumkate cannot work when the two houses are being led by William Ruto.
This is what I want to mention, Boniface. Number one, Masika Moses Wetangula's days are numbered. And it's a question of when and not if he is impeached from that particular portfolio. Number two, Moses Wetangula is a law-abiding citizen, a lawyer by excellence who knows the rule of law in this country. In fact, he even at some time reported his wife to current police station for battering him. So it implies that these are law-abiding citizens who understands the constitution, who understands the rule of law. And we have section 23 and 24 of the Political Parties Act mention this crystal clearly, that someone holding a public office is not supposed to be a leader of a political party. You see, that is something that is very crystal clear. Even a first-year law student in law can tell you that whatever that the Speaker of the National Assembly is doing is tantamount to preaching the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya. So I believe Moses Wetangula has failed to give leadership, especially in the House, and that is why you saw Parliament was impeached on the 25th of June last year, because he has failed to give insights. He has failed to give proper judgments. He has failed. He's just a pro-government. He's a pro-government speaker. See? So I think if he doesn't resign from that portfolio, then he'll be forced out of office. And I don't really think whether William Ruto is going to save him. Because you can remember that on the 23rd of October, 2022, upon taking duties as the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Musalia Mudavadi resigned from ANC. And recently, William Ruto told Moses Wetangula to fold Kenya and also join the UDA. But he refused. So it implies that if today a motion is taken to the National Assembly to impeach the Speaker of the National Assembly, not even UDA is going to defend Moses Wetangula. Because to me, I think he has been incompetent as a person. I have to say that without any fear of contradiction. He's incompetent to the core. So if today a motion is brought to impeach Moses Wetangula from that portfolio, not even UDA will support him or will defend him. And now that Raila Odinga is in town, and he believes that he's as new political formation, he says the majority in parliament, then they have to take rightfully what belongs to them. And part of the business of the day will be to deal squarely with the Speaker, Moses Wetangula. So if he's not going to resign, then most probably he's going to be hounded out of office. So what I can advise him is that he really needs to man up and do the necessary, because he's a lawyer by excellence. He knows what the law says. Section 23 and 24 of the Political Parties Act is very crystal clear on that matter, that if you are a public officer holding a public office, then you are not supposed to be a leader of any particular political party. But he has gone away from that. He has shied away from that. And he's just making unnecessary judgments. And the court has made its ruling on that matter. So I really think that he needs to take the first step and resign. Failure to which he'll be hounded out of office.
Your last statement as you wind up?
What I like to say is that this country lacks political hygiene. Our politicians are moving here and there, politicking 24 hours. When are they going to develop? When are they going to work for our people? Like recently, I was trying to have a look at the Treasury the financial statements from Treasury, and I saw that 50% of our tax revenue collections goes to payment of tax, to payment of debt interest. See, 50% of our tax revenues goes to payment of debt interest. And if you add the principal, you realize that up to 77% of our tax revenues go to servicing our debts. So when are we really going to work? Where are we going to get money for development? What I like to advise our leaders is to take that noble step and account for our resources. You see, recently, the permanent secretary for the Ministry of Immigration said that the e-citizen platform collects up to 1 billion Kenya shillings on a daily basis. You see, is this money put into right use? Is it put into proper use? You see, financial imprudence is the greatest dragon that we are dealing with as a country. Financial mismanagement is what is derailing the development agenda of this country. The political class are moving here and there, splashing millions and millions of shillings. So another thing that I like to say is that Kenya is a developmental state. Kenya is not a developed state, but a developmental state. A state that is in the phases in the process of developing. So we really need to have leaders with unquestionable integrity to steer this country forward. This is why people like Raila'S are coming into the picture. These are the kind of characters that we need to put there so that they manage our resources prudently. You see, we have the Public Finance Management Act, which clearly stipulates how our resources are supposed to be used, how our resources are supposed to be put into use. But now you realize that corruption has overrun everything. I don't really believe whether we have a proper election legislations that guides this country. So it's my clarion call to the political class, to the corporate leaders. We really need to come together so that we develop this country for the future and posterity. That is it, Boniface.